Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. Again, Dave Hooker is out this week. We do expect to have him back. He will be back, but he is dealing with the personal issue. Just wanted to let you guys know on that. We got a lot to get to today, including a medical retirement involving a Tennessee receiver. We're going to lead with that. Tennessee wide receiver Bru McCoy has medically retired after not being selected in the NFL draft. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what it says about Tennessee's receivers last year. We're also going to break down the Sherrone Moore suspension because it has reignited a conspiracy theory, guys, that we really got to get to. We're going to have fun with that. We also have, we're going to talk a little bit later about something Urban Meyer said about what Tennessee must do about their starting quarterbacks, Brian Kelly on spring practice, and if the Vols should just face UCLA, should schedule a game with UCLA. That would be a lot of fun. We also got Stat of the Day and This Day in Tennessee Sports History. The show brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. And we are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. So hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn the notifications on, tell a friend, and we get rolling by first bringing in Jimmy Hyams. It is Wednesdays with Jimmy. Jimmy, how are you doing?
Caleb, I'm doing great. And I would love to see Tennessee play UCLA.
I should just start with that, actually. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I don't, and obviously it's too late to get them on the schedule, but wouldn't that be fantastic to see a matchup between Joey Aguilar and Nico Iamaleava going at it? And the interest that it would draw. Just think about that. There would be a lot of national interest in that one.
Yo, I totally agree. And I was thinking the same thing. And, UCLA plays Utah on August the 30th. I mean, why not? There's got to be a way where Tennessee, Syracuse, Utah, and UCLA could work out like where they just switch their opponents, right? Where Tennessee plays UCLA and Syracuse plays Utah. I mean, why not?
Well, Tennessee and UCLA traded quarterbacks, so maybe they can negotiate a trade with these other teams and have Utah play Syracuse.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it.
Exactly. And it's not like Tennessee has not played UCLA before where they had questions at quarterback. 94.
Yeah, exactly. And God, that was a game where Jerry Coker got hurt on the seventh play of the first series, and Todd Helton came in and Peyton Manning played. I think Brandon Stewart may have even played. And then they went back to Todd Helton. But I'd never seen a circus at quarterback like that at Tennessee where they played a whole bunch of quarterbacks just kind of searching for an answer.
Yeah, I had actually read, you probably know more, but Peyton committed to Tennessee because he wanted to redshirt for a year, didn't he? And
Yeah.
then he got thrown into the
plan. That was the plan. He was going to redshirt for a year behind Jerry Colquitt, a fifth-year quarterback from Oak Ridge who had bided his time, who had a really good spring. And Tennessee felt like he was going to have I don't know if I should call it a breakout season because he hadn't really played, but they were expecting him to put up some big numbers and to play well. And they were really impressed with what he did in the spring and through the summer. And then to have his season and career ended that way, that was really a shame.
It was a sad story. Speaking of careers and ending based on injury, that actually leads us to our first topic, and it is today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones. Bru McCoy has revealed, Jimmy, that he is medically retiring from football. That came out yesterday. This is after he wasn't selected in the 2025 NFL draft. I'm going to talk a little bit about what this means for what this says about Tennessee's receivers and actually what it reveals. But first, I just kind of want to ask your thoughts. I mean, how sad of a story is something like this for a guy that had so much talent when he committed to Tennessee 3 years ago?
Very. If I remember, he was a five-star. He goes to USC. He had some problems at USC. Comes to Tennessee. To my knowledge, he had none. And if I'm not mistaken, he might be the only first-year receiver at Tennessee under Josh Heupel that prospered. I think he caught, 52 passes his first year? And nobody else in the first year of that system really put up numbers quite like that. So, yeah, I thought he came in with a flourish, but it was also evident that after he suffered that gruesome injury in 2023, he was never the same player. And I think he had lost some of his speed. Maybe he lost some of his confidence along the way. And to go undrafted, I mean, at one point, you're considered one of the best wide receivers coming into college. And now to go undrafted, he was probably tired of fighting the injuries that he had and lost some of the ability that he had. And I think it's a sad story because I think at one time he was an NFL caliber receiver.
I totally agree. And that leads us to today's tough question. Again, brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win. Why settle? Banks and Jones. The poll question is up. Does Bru McCoy's medical retirement prove the Vols were more limited than we thought at wide receiver in 2024? Now, I want to ask Jimmy this, and this is today's tough question. Does Bru McCoy's medical retirement from football and the fact that he was the number one receiver last year for Tennessee prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the receivers and the limitations at the receiver position was a bigger problem in the passing game last year than anything else?
Yes, I think it was. And I didn't know the extent of McCoy's injuries. I just knew that he wasn't the same player he'd been before. I think that was evident to a lot of us that watched him play. And then you have a diminutive receiver in Squirrel White, who I thought would be able to stretch the field a little bit, but it seemed like almost everything he caught was within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, right? Flanker screens and whatever. So, and then Chris Brazzell did not have the year I thought he would have. Matthews comes in as a 5-star receiver and he catches 7 passes. It's still hard for me to figure out why he wasn't more productive, other than maybe he had difficulty learning this offense and learning the scheme and learning how to read defenses as he ran routes. But yeah, when you take McCoy almost out of the equation and just not being as effective, that certainly had an impact. And in my opinion, certainly debatable, I thought the wide receiving core was the most underachieving group on Tennessee's team last year.
I thought so too. And it wasn't just, part of this was Bru losing a step. And we watched a lot of plays last year, I'm sure you did too, where Nico seemed to overthrow Bru McCoy or some wide open guys. And I wonder if I look back, we blame Nico's lack of accuracy. We thought it was a Joe Milton thing. Maybe he just mistimed it because of Bru McCoy's slower step, looking back.
Yeah, very well could have been. Yeah. And I would not discount that. I will say this, though, in regard to that, I wonder in practice if they could not have adjusted. If Nico couldn't have recognized, hey, McCoy's a step slow, I cannot lead him like I used to. So maybe there could have been an adjustment in practice that did not carry over to the games. I don't know. But I do think the lack of speed by Bru McCoy certainly took away any impact of him being able to catch the ball downfield. He could catch a flanker screen, he could catch a slant, but he wasn't going to get much action, be it 20 yards beyond the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, it's funny you say that because that's kind of, and I want to know your thoughts on this. I think one of the problems, one of the weaknesses of Josh Heupel is I don't think Josh Heupel really evaluates practice and fall camp to determine a starter. I think he kind of has an idea who he wants to start before he begins fall camp, and no one really has a fair shot to start afterwards. So I think he had it in his mind that Bru McCoy was going to be the number one receiver, and there was nothing that Bru McCoy could do to change his mind on that.
Well, I can't say I share that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just hadn't thought of it that way. You're probably going back to Joe Milton starting over Hendon Hooker.
I am still sticking with that, particularly when Joe Milton didn't even participate in all of spring practice. But yes.
Yeah, and I think in that particular instance, you had a head coach that was enamored with Joe Milton's arm, just as Joe Milton was enamored with his arm. But I did talk to people that had the opportunity to watch their practices and their scrimmages, and they told me they would have started Hendon Hooker from the get-go. And I said, why? Because Milton – now, the media that says, well, we watched practice and we knew that Milton was ahead of him. Look, we only got to see like 2 periods against Air. So don't give me that. We didn't get the media, most of the media. There might have been some that were available to go watch it. We didn't get to see scrimmages. And that's what gives you a better idea than throwing against Air 7-on-7 without pads on. But I did have some people that watched those scrimmages and they said, I would go with Hendon Hooker. And I said, why? They said, because when Hooker's in the game, they move the football and they score touchdowns. And when Milton's in the game, there are a lot of 3-and-outs. They don't move the ball as effectively with Milton as they do with Hooker. So now why the coaches didn't see that, I don't know. So I'll give you that one. I don't know if I would apply that to other positions. Maybe you're right about that. I just haven't really noticed that.
Yeah, it just feels it's just a thought I kind of had because even with the Joe Milton Hendon Hooker thing, if you remember, look, I know Kadon Salter got in some trouble, but it was a minor violation of marijuana, and he quickly kicked Kadon Salter off the team for that.
Yeah.
And I have a hunch that if Kadon Salter was his guy, that's not something he would have dismissed a player for during the offseason.
Yeah, Salter had two minor issues. I don't remember the other one, but the second one is what got him, and the second one is what you said. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I actually was surprised that he kicked him off the team. I also wonder, that was Heupel's first year, right?
Yeah, that was his first year.
Was he not sending a message?
Oh, of course. It was an easy message to send because he didn't want Kadon Salter anyway.
Yeah.
So
I think that was a part of it as well. Salter, by the way, is a pretty good quarterback.
Oh, he is. He is.
Yeah.
Funny enough, it reminds me, I don't know if you remember the story, but Steve Spurrier had that policy of never hit a woman, or if you even get into like any sort of confrontation, I'm kicking you off. And then at Florida, he admits it. He's like, yeah, we had a player get in a confrontation and I kicked him off the team. Lucky for me, he wasn't a good player.
Yeah. Well, even Derek Dooley, one of the few things that he said that I agreed with, he did make this statement. He said, your better players get more chances.
Yeah.
And he proved that. He lived by that motto.
Oh, he did. He did.
And other coaches won't admit it, but they also do the same thing.
I'm going to get a message from Banks and Jones real quick, but I do want to add, didn't Red Auerbach say to the Celtics in the 60s that there's two sets of rules for this team, one for the team and the other for Bill Russell?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that story. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, play to win, why settle, Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We're going to stick with this, but in a second, we're going to ask about Tennessee's receivers this year and what it means. First, a quick message from T. Scott Jones.
Why Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott.
Jimmy, I want to ask you this question. Given what we now know about Bru McCoy, and again, it's sad, we feel awful for him, but given how that kind of reveals how Tennessee's receivers were even more limited than we thought last year, do you think that actually provides a little bit of hope for the receiving core this year and the idea that the passing game could be significantly better because of the fact that, as far as we know, everybody in the unit is healthy, assuming they've picked up Josh Heupel's offense?
Well, my reason for hesitancy on this one is that Mike Matthews he got hurt earlier, but I still go back to why he only caught 7 passes. We haven't seen anything out of Staley yet. He hasn't proven himself. I think Brazel can be a good receiver. I thought he was pretty average last year. And you got freshmen don't come into this system and produce, right? And Tennessee's got 3 freshman receivers coming in. Maybe Boo Carter gives them something at the wideout position. I'm not real confident with this receiver group. I had somebody tell me the other day he thinks this will be the most improved area of Tennessee's team, the wide receivers. For Tennessee's sake, I hope he's right. But I just have to see it. Do I think Mike Matthews has some talent? I do. But is he going to go from 7 catches to 70? I don't see that. Is Staley going to emerge as a really good receiver? Maybe. But I don't see anybody taking a jump like Jalen Hyatt from 2021 to 2022. I don't see that. So I think this receiving core is okay. I don't think they're special like they were in 2022. So to me, it's the old Missouri thing. Show me. I need to see some proof out of this receiver group. Otherwise, I think they're going to be pretty comparable to what they were last year.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate, and I know we're going back to when Tennessee was an NFL factory, but let's just take during the period of Tennessee's wide receiver U era and the era of, I'll go to the Fulmer years, actually, when they were winning championships under Fulmer. I mean, Joey Kent left after 96. I mean, I don't think anybody thought Marcus Nash would outproduce Joey Kent in 97, did they? And he did.
No.
And then Marcus Nash leaves. Peerless Price becomes the number 1 receiver and doesn't even have Peyton Manning throwing him the ball. And becomes, in my opinion, I don't know your thoughts, but in 98, Peerless Price's 98 production per touch is the most impactful receiver in Tennessee football history during that time.
Well, I hadn't thought about per touch, but I have said this before with him. He made more clutch catches in that season than any Tennessee receiver I can remember in a single season. So that may be comparable to what you're saying, but if you think about all the 80-yard receptions or something close to that from T. Martin, whether it was against Florida State or somebody else, he made a ton of huge, big plays for Tennessee that year.
Right. And so I guess where I'm getting at is, couldn't Mike Matthews be comparable to Peerless Price or Marcus Nash? Or did you guys see more from Marcus Nash and Peerless Price before they became the number one guys than you've seen?
Well, I saw a lot on the Nash. I thought he had the ability to be really good. And I thought he and Kent were a very good complement. I saw a lot of potential out of Peerless Price. I saw signs. Certainly I saw more out of them than I did Mike Matthews or Chris Brazzell. Now, the other part of that too is this is a completely different system. And I wonder, although it's simplified from this perspective, in my opinion, Caleb, if you put 6 in the box and you spread with them, Tennessee's going to run. If you put 7 in the box, Tennessee's going to throw. Okay, so they play a numbers game. But I do think it's complicated and complex when you read as much as they do. I don't think they ask the receivers, okay, you're running a 7-yard out. I think they're saying now, if the defensive back does this, this is what you do. And so you got to be on the same page as a quarterback, or else quarterback's going to throw an incompletion and an interception. I think that makes it more difficult for young players to succeed in this system because they're doing so much reading and reacting to what the defense does, other than your flanker screen pass or maybe a slant. So I think this system makes it harder to flourish if you're new to it. And that gives me concern about a new quarterback coming in, right? So If you assume that Joey Aguilar is going to be a quarterback, he's going to have to do a whole lot of reading and being on the same page with those receivers, which I think you're going to see a number of passes where he throws it inside and the receiver goes out, or vice versa. Which also means, does Josh Heupel come back and say, we got to simplify this a little bit from the route running. We have to call a 7-yard out. We have to call a deep slant. We have to pre-call that and let them beat their guy instead of reading what the defense is doing and reading what the defensive backs are doing. Because I think that has slowed the progress of some of these wideouts.
Oh, I agree with that, I think that's the encouraging sign that maybe Mike Matthews has figured it out and just needed a year to develop in the system. Yeah. But you're right, with a new quarterback, I actually asked this question yesterday. I mean, does Joey Aguilar being a veteran help, or will there still be growing pains in September when he's?
I do think it helps that he's been around 2 years junior college, 2 years at Appy State. Now, 2 things about that concern me. One, he's not played SEC competition. Okay. The other one is that is a completely new system. So is he a quick decision maker? You know, I'll go back to 2021, and I don't expect Aguilar to be as good as Hooker was in 2021, but Hooker was good in 2021. He was great in 2022, second year in the system, and he has some good receivers to go with that. So Aguilar is going to have 1 year to figure this out. Is he going to be able to do that? I do think the fact that he's played a long time helps him. But boy, when you're coming into a new system, and is he a quick learner? Is he a quick study? Is he a quick decision maker? I do think he's going to be a tough and a good runner. I think he'll be a better runner than what Nico was. But I am concerned, Caleb, about the fact that he completed only 56% of his passes and threw 14 interceptions his last year at Appy State. Now, somebody close to that program told me one reason is he lost his supporting cast. He had a better year his first year at Appy State than his second year because he lost some players. Skill position players. But I think the adjustment's going to be interesting. And then the coaching staff, they got to figure out what Aguilar is comfortable with and how well he does in making quick decisions, how well he does in reading defenses. And then you got to tailor your offense to his skill set. And if they do, then maybe Tennessee's offense may be better this upcoming year than it was last year in conference games. I kind of discount the fact they averaged 62 points in non-conference games, right?
I only look at their SEC competition.
Yeah, the SEC games, they average around 28?
Yep.
Okay, a huge disparity. And it was ranked among the lower numbers in the SEC. So could they average 28 or 30 points a game in SEC competition this year? They might. And if they do, they have a chance to win more than the 8 games that I project.
A quick super chat from Timothy McGee. He says, so this system is gimmick offense and is more option routes. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Jimmy. Like, I understand when people bring up the term gimmick offense, but like college football's littered with gimmick offenses, isn't it? I mean, you could have called the triple option the gimmick offense, but it won how many national championships in the 90s?
Yeah, it won them for Alabama. It won them from Oklahoma. Yeah, Texas, I guess, got one in 69 or 70.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Nebraska did their own version with the power I. So
yeah,
and I don't know. I mean, I always called, the fun and gun was kind of a gimmicky offense, wasn't it? What Spurrier ran?
Well, see, I don't apply the term gimmicky to those offenses. I think it's what they do. Was the wishbone a gimmick offense? You had a number of teams that ran it back then. Now the only teams that run it are the service academies. Now that Paul Johnson's not at Georgia Tech. Gimmicky sounds like, well, it's just a trick offense, and it's a fad. It's going to go away. It won't be around long. That was true of the wishbone, but I think this offense is here to stay.
I think so too. I mean, it's a variation of the air raid and the Art Briles offense. Both of those offenses have been around for a long time at this point.
Yes.
So
yeah,
totally agree. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com, chatwith2tsmortgage.com. Moving on, the other breaking news of college football now is that the Connor Stallion sign stealing scandal won't go away for Michigan. Sherrone Moore looks like he's going to be suspended for the first 2 games of the 2025 season. The Connor Stallions story, and this is going to be What the H, brought to you by Double D Piping. The Connor Stallion story has reignited a conspiracy theory about Tennessee, Jimmy, which is that South Carolina being dead in the water in 2022, about to miss a bowl game, goes and shocks 2 college football playoff contending teams in back-to-back weeks in Tennessee and Clemson that had been scouted by Connor Stallions a month earlier. How much validity do you give to that conspiracy theory?
Not much at all.
Not much at all.
No. By the way, Moore, it's been announced, and I love this, he's going to be suspended for games 3 and 4. So he gets to coach in the first game, and the second game is against Oklahoma. So they want him coaching against Oklahoma. And then he has to sit out games 3 and 4, one of which includes like New Mexico State and Nebraska. So that gives you an idea of what Michigan thinks of Nebraska, right?
That is true. They have absolutely no respect for Nebraska whatsoever.
I don't know that I think that South Carolina gleaned all this scouting information, and that's why. What did they score? 60? Was it 63-28? 38 against Tennessee. Something
it was
crazy
63-28. It was 38, 63-38. You're right.
Yeah. So I don't put a lot of stock in. Well, it's because that scouting report, they got 63 points. For whatever reason, Rattler was brilliant in that game. I put that more into, for whatever reason, under Heupel, they have a game that's inexplicable. Whether it was losing last year at Arkansas, whether it was losing to South Carolina, whether it was going to Missouri a couple of years ago and getting your butt kicked, that was like 33-7. They just seem to have one of those games. So I put more stock into it. Now, here's the other thing that I've heard mixed reports on. Jeremy Banks got suspended for that game. He didn't play. Now, is he worth 63 points? No. But from what I was told, Jeremy Banks told somebody I know that on Monday, he got suspended for missing practice. But the team was not told that Banks wasn't going to play in that game until they boarded the bus on Friday. And they're like, what? So it kind of hit them cold that he wasn't going to be there. And I've heard that, I don't know that it's true, but I've heard that some of the players kind of revolted about Jeremy Banks because he was the leader of that defense. I would say Banks not being there probably had as much to do with the scouting issue as anything. But I think it's overblown. I don't think cheating and scouting like that makes that big of a difference.
Okay, so let me just play devil's advocate.
I think you do.
No, okay. Look, I'll say this. As somebody who is a U.S. history major, I enjoy myself studying a lot of government conspiracies, throughout history. My rule with conspiracies is that you got to show me more than a motive and you got to show me more than a series of coincidences. I need to see something hard. Just for example, like I'm open to a JFK conspiracy theory, but even though there are suspicious circumstances surrounding it, no one has given me any evidence that anybody other than Lee Harvey Oswald actually pulled the trigger and shot him to this point.
I'm 100% on the same page with you on that one. It's been 60 something years, right?
Right.
And nobody's come forward. So,
yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So I understand the hesitancy, but it wasn't just the Tennessee game that year. It was they beat Tennessee and then they beat Clemson in back-to-back weeks, scoring 63 and 31 points. Two teams who they eliminated from the playoff, who were scouted by Michigan a month earlier. And this was right after they had only scored 6 points at Florida. Most notably, the next year in 2023 with Spencer Rattler, who had those strong 2 weeks, they go 5-7 and the offense sputters again. So maybe the Jeremy Banks situation could be why they scored 6. Maybe it is why Tennessee would have given up a lot of points, maybe 35, 40 in that game. But, South Carolina had 10 legitimate offensive possessions in that game, and they scored touchdowns on 9 of them, which I've never heard. And then they go to Clemson and beat them a week later. That again, no hard evidence outside of Connor Stallion scouting Tennessee and Clemson the month before. And Ollie Lane told us that South Carolina's their offense was wearing armbands in that game, which they had never worn before. I got to say, doesn't the Clemson game and then the way they played the next year with Spencer Rattler add a little bit of fuel to the fire?
Well, let me ask you this, and I didn't know about the armbands. Did they wear armbands against Clemson?
That is something I need to look up. You're right. This
could add to the conspiracy theory.
You're right.
Now, or is it possible that Shane Beamer is just a really good coach late in the season?
I mean, that is true because the same thing happened this past year.
Right. With Sellers at quarterback, I think they won their last 6. They were one of the 3 best teams probably in the SEC in the last half of the year, or at least the last 6 or so games. I mean, they played lights out. And they also had a couple of tough losses before that. I think one of them was at LSU or Alabama. But they really came on and played well. And by the way, Sellers was a whole lot better than I ever envisioned that he would be. But I do think Rattler got hot at that particular time. Why, I don't know. I do remember asking, you'll get a kick out of this, I think. But I'm at the SEC spring meetings, and I asked Shane Beamer about all of a sudden it clicking in for Rattler against Tennessee, Clemson, and then they also scored a lot of points against Notre Dame in a bowl game, right?
They did.
So I asked him about it clicking in for him, and he said, no. He said he played well the whole year. Well, that's a bunch of bull. Rattler had like 9 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions entering the Tennessee game. I'm not going to say he stunk, but he was among the lower tier of quarterback producers in the SEC until that moment. So he didn't play like that the whole year. So anyway, I don't put a lot of stock into it. Maybe I need a little more evidence. The armband kind of makes me wonder a little bit because I didn't know that part of the equation.
Yes. This is this is something we heard from Ollie Lane about the armbands. Now, to your point with Lenora Sellers, it's funny because it actually I don't know where you stand on college football playoff selections. Do you go based on the whole body of work no matter when you played, or do you think you give credence to how teams finish the season? Because I think there's an argument that if you go based on who's finishing stronger or hot at the right time, you could have made a case that South Carolina should have been in the playoff over SMU last year. And the other
here's the way I look at that. I do consider the entirety of the season. If I think it's a coin flip between, let's say, South Carolina and Ole Miss, I'm taking South Carolina because they won their last 6 and they were hot and they were playing better. And Ole Miss went on the road and laid an egg at Florida. Okay. So, which could have been in certain terms like a playoff game. I would take South Carolina in that situation over Ole Miss. But I do have to look at the whole season. But again, if I think 2 teams are pretty much on a level basis, I'm taking the hotter team.
What the H brought to you guys by Double D Piping. We're going to wrap this up in 1 second. First, a quick message from Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
So the takeaway from this segment is Jimmy Hyams thinks Shane Beamer is going to be on the Mount Rushmore of SEC coaches in the near future. I'm just kidding, Jimmy.
If you only count the last 5 or 6 games.
So, okay, is Shane Beamer the new?
I wouldn't put him there even with that. I'm just kidding.
Is Shane Beamer the new?
We got somebody that sent a text that said there were emails proving that South Carolina had the scouting reports from Michigan. I don't know about those emails. Do you?
I don't know about those emails either. I've never heard about those emails. Yeah, I don't really believe that's the case. But I will say this: Shane Beamer's November run is more impressive than. Do you remember when? Rest in peace. I think he was a great guy. But when Johnny Majors used to brag about how great he was in November, and I thought, well, yeah, but look at who you're playing in November every year at Tennessee.
He didn't bring that up. They remember what you do in November. Yeah, they remember that you beat a bad Vanderbilt team and a bad Kentucky team and typically a bad Ole Miss team. Yeah, his schedule was not difficult in November. So, yeah, he was he did have a great November record for a long time.
He did. It was one last thing. It reminds me of. Do you remember Derek Dooley when he switched from Matt Sims to Tyler Bray in 2010, and he said, we switched to Tyler Bray and we turned around the season from 2-6 to 6-6. I'm like, you turned it around because you played Memphis, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. I
also remember when he lost to Kentucky, he said that wasn't a big game.
Oh yeah, and then he went dark for a month, didn't he?
Yeah. I think 37 days he could not be found. Because I think you realize the, shall we call it the stupidity of that comment?
Yeah, that's very true. Portions of the program brought to you by Hemp House brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. Jimmy, before I let you out of here, I just wanted to run the stat of the day by you real quick because I think you might find this interesting if you're interested. The stat of the day is this. Nico Iamaleava is the 12th quarterback in history to start a game for Tennessee and then transfer to another school. They all were this century. How many of them can you name?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. All of them were this century. So I'm sure Harrison Bailey has started a game.
Yep.
Let me go back and start around 2000. AJ Suggs.
Correct.
Joey Matthews.
No, he never transferred.
Oh, I thought he transferred. Okay.
He just graduated early.
Let's see. Brent Schaefer was one of them. There are more. I think there were more in some recent years.
There were.
I
pretty much.
That you put me on the spot there.
I know. I just wanted to mess with you to put you on the spot.
Who was the guy that I think he went to Florida and bombed out? Peterson?
Nathan Peterman.
Yeah. Didn't he go somewhere else and start?
Yeah, he went to Pittsburgh and actually played for Jim Chaney at Pittsburgh, funny enough.
Yeah. So that's another one. So I guess I've named about 11.
You're doing good. I had to look it up myself, and I was putting you on spot. So it was AJ Suggs, James Banks, because James Banks started at Mississippi State, Brent Schaefer, Nick Stevens, Nathan Peterman, Will McBride, Quentin Dormady, JT Shrout, Brian Maurer, Jared Garantano, and Harrison Bailey. So you named quite a few.
Yeah, I thought about Garantano, but I couldn't remember where he transferred to. Did he go out?
Washington State.
Well, yeah, he went out west. Yeah, I did not remember Banks.
Yeah, he started against Mississippi State in 2002 after Clausen got hurt the second time.
But where did he start after he left Tennessee?
Oh, he went to a Carson Newman after he left Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. And he started at quarterback at Carson Newman.
Oh no, he didn't. I don't think he started. He just transferred there. I just think quarterbacks that started a game for Tennessee to transfer out.
Oh, I was thinking of people that transferred out that started somewhere else. I didn't quite. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
And to those asking, Brandon Stewart played for Tennessee, but he never started a game technically for Tennessee.
That's correct. Enough. Yeah, Manning got those starts.
Yep. Jimmy, how can we find your work?
Well, right here on Off the Hook Sports. Also, we do a lot of podcasts. We just recently did an interview with Tony White. Tony White's one of the all-time great players at Tennessee. So it's on the Rewind on Full Disclosure Productions. You can find us on YouTube. If you have any trouble tracking it down under Full Disclosure Production, go to YouTube, type in my name, and those interviews will show up. So you'll see Tony White right off the bat. And we're launching that, by the way, Thursday, I should say. So, but all the interviews, and we've done more than 20, you can find them right there. So that's a good way to find our work. And I've really enjoyed doing these interviews. It's fun to catch up with people. And then I'm doing very few current type interviews. We're looking at their past. That's why we call it the Rewind. But we go back to Tony White, how he got recruited, why he had a vendetta against Auburn, in which he scored 51 points to set the school record. So we talk a lot about the history of what these particular sports figures did. So that's what we're doing, having a really good time doing it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jimmy. I am sorry. I know I kept you a little bit longer today, but I really appreciate everything. And you have a great rest of your week.
You too, Caleb. Take care.
You too. Have a good one. Jimmy Hyams, one of the best to ever do it. Portions of the program and the stat of the day are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. hdknoxville.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about a comment made by Urban Meyer and what Tennessee should do with their starting quarterback situation. It's kind of interesting what he said. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Why Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you." All right. Urban Meyer commented on Tennessee's quarterback situation recently while speaking on a podcast, the Triple Option podcast. So Urban Meyer is claiming that Tennessee needs to name a starting quarterback early. Now, I'm talking about early into fall camp is what he's claiming. His reasoning makes sense, but it does kind of go against what Josh Heupel typically does. So let me give you guys a quick comment on what Urban Meyer, a quick snippet. Let me play a quick snippet of what Urban Meyer said on the Triple Option podcast. And this is the first time Urban Meyer said something that I don't think is trying to undercut somebody for his own selfish gain. I think he actually has a good point here. I'm going to play what he said, and then we're going to come back and discuss. This is what Urban Meyer said about on the Triple Option podcast about Tennessee's quarterback situation.
The minute you said you got a quarterback issue, I go right to their schedule. And here's the problem. You screw around with your quarterback because you have to name his quarterback within 2 weeks of training camp. There's no chance that you can let this thing bleed out because the team has to know who your quarterback is. So a guy that's just stepping on campus now, a guy that's only completed or attempted 9 passes, I believe, you have to, and Josh Heupel played quarterback won the Heisman, right? Or at least a national. I'm not sure, but he knows enough about quarter play he has to announce this sooner than later. And they got Syracuse, East Tennessee State, and Georgia. You can't come out of that.
All right, so Urban Meyer is saying that Josh Heupel needs to name his starting quarterback 2 weeks into 2 weeks into fall camp. First, let me say this up front. Josh Heupel's not going to do that. Okay? Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Josh Heupel is not going to name his starting quarterback until the week of the Syracuse game, even if it's the wrong thing to do. Bank on it. Josh Heupel will not name his starting quarterback until the week of the Syracuse game.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial.
All right, so I'm putting up the poll question now, which is, how early should Josh Heupel name his starting quarterback? And we'll go 2 weeks into fall camp. The week before the, how about this? Before fall camp, early into fall camp, just before the opener is fine, or after the season starts. You guys let me know on this, on the poll question. That's those are the 4 that I want to bring up. How early should Josh Heupel name his starting quarterback? Before fall camp, early into fall camp, just before the opener is fine, or after the season starts? I have to say that at least within the team, not publicly, but at least to the team, Josh Heupel can employ some gamesmanship. Naming a starting quarterback early into fall camp is probably important. Look, Jimmy Hyams just brought it up. We talked about it. The starting quarterback has to develop a rapport with the receivers because the receivers and the quarterback, the receivers have to do these read routes and the quarterback has to guess which way they're going to read. Okay. You have to get them on the same page and running the same first team reps together. Otherwise, you got a big issue. So Tennessee absolutely needs to have their starting quarterback. I think, honestly, this is why Josh Heupel likes to name his starting quarterback, or at least in his mind, have the starting quarterback he wants before fall camp starts. Because he wants to establish that rapport with the quarterback and the receivers before anything happens. Okay. And look, it's one of those things that I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult to accept, but if you drag this thing out, Urban Meyer is right. Syracuse is not an easy out for the opener. They're just not. Okay. Syracuse had a very good first year under Fran Brown. They are a hot rising college football program right now. I think there's a very good chance that Syracuse gives Tennessee trouble if Tennessee does not have its quarterback situation figured out early. Okay. So I honestly think that Urban Meyer, look, whatever you think of him as a person, he's right here. Okay. Sometimes his analysis is good. You got to have your starting quarterback name. And Urban Meyer actually knows this better than anybody. For those who don't remember, when Urban Meyer took over at Florida in 2005, Urban Meyer took over at Florida, went 9-3 with Chris Leak. Tim Tebow got there the next year and was literally the perfect I do the created in a lab theory. Tim Tebow, no quarterback was more created in a lab to run Urban Meyer's offense than Tim Tebow. And he's going to Florida. Florida fans wanted Tim Tebow to start immediately. Urban Meyer did not let any of that momentum gain. Okay, he went out in the beginning of fall camp, actually in the beginning of spring camp, and said, Chris Leak's our starter, period, end of story. That kept the team together. Another example was in 2014 when he won the national title at Ohio State. Braxton Miller was his starter. Braxton Miller got hurt. JT Barrett came in. JT Barrett got hurt. Then he went to Cardale Jones the next year. He said it's a good problem to have all these quarterbacks, but he went in public and named Cardale Jones his starter before the season started because that's who he wanted to go with. Okay. I do think it's important if you have a complex offense, not necessarily complex, but an offense with a lot of moving parts that requires a level of chemistry. I think it's important to have your starting quarterback named early because so many things depend on the rhythm the receivers have with the quarterbacks. So, and look, if Tennessee does start 1-2, they're in deep trouble. They still have to go to, because they could start 1-2. Again, it's a little bit out there. Okay. They are double-digit favorites over Syracuse. But if they could start 1-2, they still have road trips to Alabama and Florida on the schedule later in the year. That's a problem. Now, Adam has a great point. Meanwhile, Spurrier says start 2 QBs. That's because Spurrier didn't necessarily have a system. He went play to play. He would go play to play and use the athletes that he had at Florida. During that time, Spurrier would run three wide receivers, and most schools still only had cornerbacks to guard two receivers at the time, or 2 wideouts. So he just ran an extra wide receiver out there. Found a track star from the Sunshine State, since Florida is known for speedy receivers out of high school, and just say, you can't cover your 2 guys can't cover my 3. And I think Spurrier was very aware that SEC coaches just weren't very bright during that time period. Totally different story. Okay. I think in general, in this case, I think Josh Heupel needs to go ahead and name his starting quarterback early. I want to get to a couple of super chats from Timothy that I missed earlier because this deals with it to a certain degree, and I do appreciate Timothy's. I always appreciate Timothy's super chats. So he brings up gimmick quarterbacks don't read the full field and wide receivers don't do timing routes. Quarterback can't read coverages like a Cutcliffe offense. Timothy, okay, I get what you're saying with gimmick offenses in that way, but in that regard, there are a lot of gimmicky offenses that have had success at the college level. So just when you call it a gimmicky offense, I understand what you're saying, but I do think that we have to be fair to the concept of gimmicky offenses, because what you might refer to as gimmicky offenses still wins championships. Okay. Another one, you say a gimmick offense is an offense that always looks to the sideline instead of a quarterback reading the defense coverages. Fair. Look to the sideline, or in Spurrier's case, directly have Spurrier call the plays to them in their head, and then he goes out there and then they win a national championship with that. They don't always necessarily look to the sideline in this offense. If you see them the way they run the no huddle, they get up to the line and they just read it. What happens is the quarterback just reads the safety. Typically, he doesn't really look to the sideline. He just reads the safety, and that's where he makes his decision. That's where it's actually similar to the triple option. I mean, it's not similar to the triple option, but think about it like the triple option. If you want to say gimmicky offenses, what happens? The quarterback gets up to the line of scrimmage, reads the defense, and decides, am I going to hand it off to the fullback? Am I going to roll out and run myself, or am I going to pitch it? And it's all based on a reaction to what the defense does. It's gimmicky, yes, but that doesn't mean it's not successful. So as far as the poll question goes, how early should Josh Heupel name his starting quarterback? 41% of you guys are saying just before the opener is fine. 29% of you are saying early into fall camp. 18% of you are saying before fall camp. 12% of you are saying after the season starts. I understand the concept that sometimes it's okay to have a quarterback controversy into the middle of the season. Other coaches have done that. Nick Saban's dealt with that, so it's not like you can't have it. But I do think that in general, for Josh Heupel and to get the rhythm right, if he's going to go with Joey Aguilar, I think it's kind of important for Tennessee to go ahead and name their starting quarterback pretty early on, because they got to establish that rapport. The receivers really have a lot they've got to work on. And if that doesn't happen, then there's going to be a really, really, really big issue for them going forward. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. Link is in the chat down below. when we come back. Should Tennessee schedule a game with UCLA? We're going to play a little 4 downs because honestly, I think they should. And I think there's a way around it. We're going to talk about that. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio, and the show is represented by Banks & Jones.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. To the poll question, how early should Josh Heupel name his starting quarterback? 43% of you now are at just before the opener is fine. Spoiler alert, that is when he's going to name his starting quarterback. 24% say early into fall camp. 19% say before fall camp. And 14% say after the season starts. Killing that. And I'm now going to a new poll question. Should Tennessee, and this is going to be our next topic, but first, should Tennessee do whatever it takes to put UCLA on the schedule? And we'll go yes and no. So let's get to it. Tennessee should do everything in their power to put UCLA on the schedule this year. College football should do everything within its power to put Tennessee and UCLA on the schedule this year. The SEC and the Big Ten should do everything within their power to put Tennessee and UCLA on the schedule this year. There is absolutely no reason this can't happen. There's too much excitement going on with Tennessee and UCLA for this not to be the case. I'm going to explain how it can happen, okay? And we're going to play a little bit of 4 downs, and we're going to break down exactly how Tennessee can schedule UCLA this year, by the way, and make sure it happens. First 4 downs, and it's brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. So let's talk a little bit about why this needs to happen. We're going to get to the obvious, all right? There's actually 4 good reasons for this to be the case, okay? We're going to first send a message from Cooper Mays in spirit to say like and subscribe, because 4 downs is Cooper Mays' thing. So Cooper Mays is telling you hit like and subscribe. And Coop, first down from Coop. Why should Tennessee play UCLA? Well, obviously, Nico Iamaleava has transferred from Tennessee to UCLA. So it's Nico Iamaleava playing his former team. That's the obvious one. Obviously, Nico versus a team that he played for last year. Yeah, that's one big reason why Tennessee should do whatever they can to play UCLA, have the storyline of Nico and UCLA. Cooper Mays here. From Cooper Mays, second down. Joey Aguilar is at Tennessee after transferring to UCLA. It was a swap. Now, Joey Aguilar did not start for UCLA last year. He started for Appalachian State, but he did work with UCLA in spring practice, so he has connections with all the guys the way Nico does with Tennessee. He has connections with the UCLA guys. So it's literally a Nico Iamaleava versus Joey Aguilar situation, but for the different teams than they would have been with 3 weeks ago. You got to do it just for that. It's too much fun. So Joey Aguilar starting for Tennessee. From Tennessee center Cooper Mays, third down. Tennessee and UCLA have a history, believe it or not. Tennessee and UCLA have a long history of playing each other in non-conference ball, okay? And it's kind of more interesting than you realize. Tennessee and UCLA have played each other 13 times, dating back to 1965. 1965, Tennessee beat UCLA 37-34 at the Liberty Bowl, which is ironic because UCLA was led by Tommy Prothro, who was a Memphis native. And that was the breakout game for Dewey Warren and the Swamp Rat. And it was a game that helped Tennessee finish in the top 10 that year to make for the breakout season for Doug Dickey. 2 years later, at UCLA, Tennessee won 20-16 in what became a retroactive national championship season for the Vols. Tennessee lost 20-16, the opener at UCLA in what became a national championship season for the Vols that they retroactively declare because they went out the rest of the way and finished the regular season ranked number 2 and number 1 in a couple of polls. So that was a significant game. Losing that, had they won that game, they would have been declared unanimous national champions, funny enough. So that was a huge one. 1968, Tennessee absolutely blew out UCLA at home 42-18. So they played in 65, 67, 68. And then in 1970, Tennessee beat UCLA again. They beat them that year 28-17 on December 5th, late in the year. A key game to finish number 5. Guys, a lot of great history in this series. The two tied 17-17 in 1974. UCLA won in 1975. UCLA won in 1978. UCLA won the two. And here's the big one. In 1985, Tennessee and UCLA tied when Tennessee was unranked and UCLA was in the top 10. Tennessee led 26-10 at home. UCLA scored 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions to end the game in a tie. But that was kind of Tennessee's breakout game to prove that they had arrived finally under Johnny Majors, which they ended up winning the SEC that year and becoming a legendary team. 1989, again, a Tennessee-UCLA game that helped Tennessee reach the national stage. Tennessee beat UCLA at UCLA 24-6 when UCLA was in the top 10. The Vols had finished the year 5-6 the year before. That game propelled them to the top 25 and propelled them to an 11-1 season in which they finished ranked number 5 and won a share of the SEC title and sparked the greatest run of the modern era, a 16-year run in which Tennessee made a bowl game every year, won 4 SEC titles during that time, and won the national title in 98. It actually can be traced back to that 1989 UCLA game. 1991, Tennessee beat UCLA in Knoxville. 1994, Tennessee lost at UCLA 25-23. However, that was the game that Jimmy and I talked about in which Jerry Colquitt went down and Peyton Manning, Brandon Stewart, and Todd Helton all played in that game and it ushered in the Peyton Manning era a month later. 1996, Tennessee won 35-20. During the second week of the season, in which they set an attendance record because they had just expanded the north end zone. 1997, Tennessee won 30-24 at UCLA. That was Manning's senior year. That turned out to be a huge quality win at the end of the year because even though UCLA started 0-2, losing to Washington State and Tennessee, they finished 10-2 and in the top 5. So it was a big win for Tennessee. But then in 2008, Tennessee lost 27-24, which sparked a 5-7 season and Philip Fulmer getting fired, and they lost 19-15 Lane Kiffin's first year in 2009. So there's a lot of history between Tennessee and UCLA, which is third down, which is why this is already a great type of game to schedule. This is a traditional great non-conference matchup. Fourth down is an interesting one too, and it deals with another connection between Tennessee and UCLA. Fourth down coming up. First, a quick message from Ted Russell Ford, Lincoln Studios.
Like a blast from the past, the super dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford.
Fourth down. The Tino Sinceri connection. Yeah, that's right. Tino Sinceri. So Tino Sinceri is UCLA's offensive coordinator. Tino Sinceri was a quality control assistant at Tennessee in 2018 under Jeremy Pruitt. He was also the co-offensive coordinator last year for Indiana when Taven Jackson was playing for Indiana, who was a Josh Heupel commitment and transferred. More importantly, he is the son of legendary Tennessee defensive coordinator Sal Sinceri. I'm kidding with the legendary part, who coached Tennessee's defense in 2012 and did such a poor job that Derek Dooley got fired. And he was used as a shot to be thrown at Josh Heupel because the Iamaleava camp says one of the reasons they committed to Tennessee or to UCLA or transferred was about the offense, and they wanted to be developed better for the NFL, which is propping Tino Sinceri, not Deshaun Foster, the UCLA coach, but Tino Sinceri above Josh Heupel. That connection alone is enough of a reason for Tennessee to play UCLA. But the big one, beyond the history and beyond Tino Sinceri, is Joey Aguilar versus Nico Iamaleava for the opposite schools we thought they'd play for at the beginning of this calendar year. That's the biggest reason you want this transfer to you want this game to happen. Now, how do you make it work? How do you make it work? Well, UCLA plays Utah at home this year at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, okay? UCLA plays Utah at home in Pasadena. Utah is trying to bounce back from a bad year last year in which they lost their final 6 games after a 4-0 start. I'm sorry, they lost 7 of their final 8 games, after a 4-0 start to finish 5-7. It was a disastrous finish to the season with Kyle Whittingham. They're looking to bounce back. UCLA is playing Utah this year at home. They would have to get out of that contract, okay? Because UCLA plays Utah in 2026 as well. Utah was to replace the Georgia game, okay? I think Tennessee and UCLA should work out a deal in which Tennessee plays UCLA in 2025 and 2026. Do a home and home if you have to, just to make sure this one happens. And I don't even care if it's in Pasadena, okay? I just want to make sure this one somehow happens. Tennessee's playing Georgia Tech next year when UCLA is playing Utah again. Work with Utah to play Syracuse this year and work with them to play Georgia Tech next year. That's how you do this, man. That's how you do this. And if that doesn't work, you can figure out something else for Utah. But I think Tennessee has got to be able to play UCLA this year. It's too good of a story, okay? There's some contracts that have to work out. Maybe you stick with the home and home with Georgia Tech, and if you're Tennessee, and Utah and UCLA, they nix this year, and then the next time there's an availability, they make up the game in like 2029, 2030, when they haven't inked their out-of-conference schedule yet. But you have Utah and Syracuse play each other this year. So have Utah play Syracuse. Have Tennessee play UCLA. Then at that point, you can just do it one time. Okay, Tennessee and UCLA play on a neutral site. Utah plays Syracuse somewhere. You can make this work, guys. You got to do it. Danny White, I'm talking to you. Josh Heupel, I'm talking to you. Deshaun Foster, I'm talking to you. Martin Jarman, the athletic director at UCLA, I'm talking to you. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, I'm talking to you. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, I'm talking to you. NCAA Commissioner Charlie Baker, I'm talking to you. Guys, somebody step up and do this. Make it happen. It can happen, and it would be so much fun if we all saw it. I think you guys should make this thing go. Portions of the program are brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN. When we come back, we're going to talk a little more about another suggestion that's been made, and it's Brian Kelly talking about facing another team in spring practice and whether or not that should be the case. The poll question, should Tennessee do whatever it takes to put UCLA on the schedule? 65% say yes, 35% say no. Stick with us, 2 minutes, Off the Hook Sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. 10629 Hardin Valley Road. It is time for This Day in Tennessee Sports History. And this day in Tennessee sports history is a happy birthday to Lawrence Johnson, 51-year-old Olympian Lawrence Johnson, who was an American pole vaulter, was known as Lojo at the University of Tennessee, where he won 4 NCAA titles in the pole vault, and then went on to the Olympics. And in the 2000 Sydney Olympics, captured silver in the pole vault. Then at the World Indoor Championships in 97, also captured silver in Paris. And in Lisbon, captured gold in 2001, capturing gold at the Lisbon World Championships, maybe the highlight of his career, either that or silver at the Olympics in Sydney. But a happy birthday to Lawrence Johnson, who has continued a tradition of Tennessee track stars just balling out on the international stage. This day in Tennessee sports history brought to you by Work Trucks. They're all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with the nap-hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and gets you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com. Worktrucksllc.com with an X. Why risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also work to make sure you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X. LLC.com, WorkTrucksLLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. All right. Brian Kelly at LSU has commented on facing another team in a future spring practice. For those who don't remember, Deion Sanders first pitched this idea with Colorado, and funny enough, Syracuse head coach Fran Brown got involved and suggested they do it, where they face each other in a scrimmage for spring practice. The NCAA came in and nixed it. But Brian Kelly has come out and said that he also might be supportive of this idea. A quick quote from Brian Kelly is, "I would be open to it. I think there's clearly the calendar dictates a lot of this, right? We work off an academic calendar relative to recruiting, relative to different schools being on quarters versus being on semesters. So there's a lot of things that would have to kind of come together in those situations." I've talked to you guys about my suggestions for the spring game in the past. My big suggestion to make this thing work is make it an NIL exhibition. And what I mean by that is this. The winning team, so 2 teams arrange to play it, and you play it in a neutral site stadium somewhere. You sell a bunch of tickets. The winning team pockets all the money generated from that game, whether it be sold to a TV contractor, a TV channel, and based on the ticket sales. The winning team pockets all of that money to be split 2 ways. One, the players in that actual game earn an NIL bonus of some sort. That's half of it. And then the other half goes to the school to be able to use on NIL to buy other players. So then to buy other talent. So then everybody's excited. The players want to win because they get an NIL check, and the fans want to see their team win because that means their school gets more money to buy other players. Everybody loves it. It has no bearing on the regular season, but it helps everybody and it helps you figure out where your team stands. That's what I love. Okay. That's where I am. And that's my big way to fix spring games and make them interesting. The NCAA needs to do it. It's absolutely ridiculous that they don't. All right. So here's Brian Kelly's suggestions for spring games. And hot or cold, it's hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Not too many hot or cold points, but I want to point the 3 of them out, and I want to see what your thoughts are with Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly's first suggestion: joint practices and scrimmages like the NFL throughout the week. I'm hot on that. Here's why I'm hot on that. I know that people like Josh Heupel are paranoid. I think it's kind of time to stop the paranoia of your offenses when you're trying to keep everything secret, okay? Things are out there now, just like they are in the NFL. There's not much hiding anymore, okay? I think at this point, you just got to accept that people are going to see what you're doing. And if you don't want them to see it, don't reveal everything in spring camp. It's just that simple. Kind of, it puts a little more pressure on you to be a little bit artful about how you go about trying to win this game, but also keeping things quiet that you don't want to reveal for the season. So I'm hot on that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. The joint practices, the joint scrimmages throughout the week, that would be a ton of fun. You could see players going against each other. You could see them get into fights and things like that would probably get on TV and everybody would see it. It'd be so much drama. We'd love it. So I'm hot on that. Here's Brian Kelly's next point: keeping it relatively local. So Brian Kelly's point on this is, because of the academic situations, it's probably hard for teams to travel to a neutral site somewhere to do it. I'm cold on that. Okay, baseball teams are able to do it. Basketball teams in the winter are able to do it. Football teams in the fall are able to do it. I know football players focus more on spring academics during that week, but 2 things. One, I don't think football players should be going to class. I think your scholarship should be held and you should just be playing football when you're at Tennessee, when you're at a big time school to play football. And then you come back and go to class if you want to. That's point number 1. Point number 2, I had events when I had internships in college where I took weeks off. I had in the middle of the week, an internship I was doing, did a trip to New York, had to skip class that time. Sometimes you got to skip class for things. I would do that if I am Brian Kelly, and I mean, if I am a college football program, it's fine to skip a week. This is just a week, okay? Maybe even 3 days if you don't do the joint practices. But skipping 1 week is totally fine. I got no issue with that. So I'm cold on Brian Kelly's idea that it has to be relatively local. He was talking about it playing in Louisiana. Hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com. I'm going to give you the final take after a quick message from City Heat and Air.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. There's your best.
Welcome back to the program. the next point, and this is just a natural thing based on what Brian Kelly proposed. So I'm going to tell you from hot or cold on it. Teams of different calibers facing each other in spring games. Because if LSU has to make the game relatively local, they're going to play another program from Louisiana. None of those programs are on LSU's level. I'm cold on that too. I think a big part of what you want to do in the spring game is see where you are as a program, and you want to give the fans something to see where they are. And if you put NIL on the table, you're just fighting on a different playing field. Okay. LSU and Louisiana Lafayette, the excitement over who gets the NIL funds is just not going to be there. Okay. Because there's not as much at stake. Now you could say, to retract that a little bit, maybe there is, because LSU needs to win, because if they don't, a rival of theirs that does win gets to keep the NIL money. And if Louisiana Lafayette wins, they all of a sudden have a huge advantage in their conference. But guys, most of the time, Louisiana Lafayette and those schools aren't going to win. It doesn't make the spring game that interesting, okay? I think you need to get big-time schools playing each other of similar caliber. I don't know if the SEC and Big Ten should get together and set this up. So basically where you finish in your conferences last year, you face each other in August. I think that's a way to do it, like an SEC Big Ten spring game challenge. Oh my gosh, I just thought of that. An SEC Big Ten spring game challenge. Now you got to somehow get the same number of teams in the conferences. That's going to happen eventually down the road, just not yet. But things like that. So like last year, Georgia won the SEC title. Ohio State won Oregon won the Big Ten title. Georgia and Oregon play the first spring game. Ohio State and Texas play also, or Penn State and Texas, whoever. Now, what's interesting about this is that if these teams are already on a schedule during the fall, then you just kind of nix that. Okay, have other high profile games in the fall. I don't know. There's just fun ways to do this. Okay, there's a way to make this work. And I think that this would be so intriguing for the fans. I think by and large, there is no reason that spring games, actual games between other schools, can't happen. But I break from Brian Kelly. I think something like Tennessee, who made the college football playoff, versus, I mean, who was on their level last year? Where did Tennessee finish in the SEC? Tennessee finished, was it third in the SEC? Yes, it was third in the, okay, Tennessee would have played Ohio State, and Ohio State did blow them out in the college football playoff. So still have Tennessee and Ohio State play again. Have them play again in August on a neutral field. I don't know, somewhere in Kentucky, somewhere, maybe in Nashville, maybe in North Carolina, somewhere like that. And the winner gets to keep all their NIL funds. Guys, this would be the most fun thing. It puts something at stake for the game, but it doesn't affect your season. So it's a win-win on that front. A super chat from Timothy McGee. I love this, Timothy. The players are greedy, so they want $1 million each. Joking. No, you're not wrong. Many of the players would be greedy, and I think what would make people upset would be that I think all the players should just get paid the same amount equally, no matter who contributed the most to the game. So again, the fix is this: 2 teams play on a neutral site, or do a home and home spring game. I don't care, but 2 teams play on a neutral site. The winner of that game, how about this? The winner of that game gets to keep all the revenue generated from that game. Maybe the attendance revenue goes directly into the school's pockets, so they can use that on NIL to buy players, which is what the fans want. The TV contract revenue goes directly into the players' pockets, split amongst them evenly. Who wouldn't love that? Make it an NIL game. In an NIL age of college football, this would be one of the most exciting things to watch possible. That would be more exciting than the Tennessee UCLA, what I talked about earlier. Have an NIL game. And you don't even have to do it in April. Instead of trying to do a scheduling conflict thing, do it at the end of May. See if you can work this out with somebody, or do it to start fall camp in August. The first week of August, have Tennessee play UCLA in an NIL game. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about this. This would be so much fun. Who wouldn't want to see it, guys? This would be the most exciting thing possible. Tennessee UCLA in an NIL game. I have made college football amazing. I've made it great again. This would be epic. So, this is how you fix college football. Not really, but this is how you fix spring games in college football. The spring game is a scrimmage or an exhibition game between 2 schools that are playing for NIL money for the school that they can use on players that wouldn't count against any cap that's coming with the House settlement coming up. And NIL money split amongst the players evenly. The attendance money could be the NIL that goes to the school, and the TV revenue money could be the money that the players split evenly, or the TV money could be the NIL money that goes to the school, and the attendance money could be the money that the players split evenly amongst themselves. That would be the most epic thing possible, and it needs to be done. Make it happen. But I am with Brian Kelly on joint scrimmages the week leading up to the game. I just don't agree that it has to be local or that it has to be schools of different caliber. Brian Kelly didn't say schools of different caliber, but that would be a natural case if everything has to be local. And Drew Joe Collins says, why would any team risk losing for no money just for the winning get more money? It's a risk reward thing, but it's not like I'm not saying it would count against your actual record though, guys. That's what I'm talking about. So it wouldn't count against your record. So I think this could still work. It's just a game for NIL money. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I want to thank you guys all for tuning into the show today. I will be back on tomorrow live at 10 a.m. Eastern. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. We want you to be a part of it. Again, Dave is out this week dealing with a personal matter. Please continue to keep him in your thoughts and prayers. I can tell you he will be back. He's just out at least this week. I will be back on tomorrow. Again, brought to you by Banks & Jones from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio at 10 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Eastern every weekday with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. You guys have a great rest of your day.